I was always listening to Give Me the Faith at different points. And there's that line where she says, "Shine on my voice so people hear it and lead me to speak the words of joy." And I understood what that meant to me. And I knew I had a story there, and I knew that other people had a story too, or something that connected her work and the things she said with their lives. So I wanted to see how that played out for other fans in their life, and so I decided to bring that idea up to Jesse and Anya, and they encouraged me to continue with that and helped me as a sounding board back and forth to figure out how to go about it, how we want to approach it, how we need to put it together, how long it will take. And then we started on that, and as we went along, things changed a little bit here and there, and we started getting all these stories back, and we realized that this is going to work, because the stories we were getting back, they were personal stories, they were fun stories, they had different angles and different ideas and different thoughts, and so all these different people brought these things to us that connected to the theme that we were looking for. And we didn't actually tell anyone the idea for the book, how it started. So everyone wrote basically with the question of how has her work and words influenced your life? And that was the question we asked. I didn't mention anything about the lyrics to Give Me the Faith, but a lot of people actually mentioned that song. And so that's when people started writing in about that song and the others, and that's partially when I knew that this was worth it. Because I brought up the idea, I think it was October, and we started working on it. But I started really thinking about it in August, and I had a couple months there where I went back and forth, because I felt like, is this something I'm doing just to say, look what I can do, or look what we can do? Was it something kind of like a selfish thing? Would it actually help anyone? Would it actually give something to someone? And I went back and forth in my head, yeah, well, no, maybe I'm just doing it just to do something. And I didn't want it to be kind of a yay, Jenny, awesome kind of thing. I wanted it to also spotlight the people, even though she is awesome. We wanted to spotlight the people and how they were affected by the things that she was doing. So it wasn't just something just to show off or to show off what she's done, but to get people's stories and to hear about their lives. And so it's a book that's by fans and for fans, so that was really the direction we wanted to take it. And Jesse and Anya really helped develop those ideas and the project into a direction that would work really well. And I think it turned out pretty well.
How did you set up the time frame? What was your goal when you started?
We started in October, and we thought we could probably finish it up maybe January, February, March. But we put a little bit of time in there because we knew a lot of people they have a lot of things that are going on. I think everybody has, they have work, they have school, they have families, they have obligations and different things that they're working on. So we realized that we had to give them a little bit of a cushion and a little bit of time. Some people needed a little bit more time than others, and we were trying to give as much space as possible. So it extended out. We were hoping to have all the stories in around March or April and then work on the editing through May, June, and July. But we had a lot of people writing up into the end of June and some in the beginning of July. But it actually worked really well because we had people who got their stories in early, and we were able to help work with them on the editing and the idea, and to finesse that idea into something that would be a story that the reader could walk into and the reader could experience from their point of view. So we worked a little bit with people on how to look at their story from the other perspective, because we all have stories in our head and we know what happened. And so when you tell it to someone else, sometimes you leave out those details. But it's clear in your head. But then when other people hear it, they have some holes there. And so I would go through and ask people, can you tell me a little bit more about this? Or can you explain a little bit more about that? And then we would work together to come up with a way to put it all together so that it would be the best way to explain it to the reader and to get their point across, their voice, their point, their ideas into the story, and also be able to help the reader understand best their point.
In terms of your story, how did that help you to contribute your story, or what was the thought when you put your story together?
I decided to, before I asked anyone else to write a story, I decided to write mine to understand what exactly they were going to go through. Because you start a story and you have one idea, and then it develops as you go along. And then you have to spend a lot of time working on it and thinking about it and running it past different people and different ideas. And it changes as you go. The whole point is there, but then you start thinking about how can I bring this point across well. So for me, my story is about how I wanted to be someone else, and then I tried to be someone else, and then I realized that I couldn't do that because that's not who I am. I'm me. And it took me a long time to realize that, and the way that Jenny plays a role in that, and how she inadvertently did that through her music and through certain points. Yeah, so it was a story I had in my head for a little while, but when I started putting it down on paper, I started realizing that there's a lot to that, and it was interesting to go through it, because you have it in your head, but then you start writing it down, and then you start kind of mentally, emotionally working through it, and you learn something about yourself, and you learn something about your life, and it starts coming together. So I think that was also a reason why I realized that this was a good project, not just to do for fun or for yay, see what we can do. It was something that I knew that writing, it's a little bit of a, it helps you work through things in your head, and helps you look at your story and your life, and what has happened and how it has turned out, and how things have changed along the way. So it's kind of therapeutic in a way.
So how has that story changed you since you wrote it?
It helped me to see how the past 8 years, how I have tried to focus more on myself. I think I realized that the first several years I focused on, before that I focused on, because I started questioning whether God existed, and if he did, then what does that mean, and what does it mean for my life? And so the first couple of years I was asking God, who are you? And then I started asking, who am I? And so that past several, 2010, 2012, 13, I started, who am I? And now it's moved on to a different phase, is who are we? So it's you know, who is he, who am I, who are we? And that's in the phase I'm in now. And I didn't realize until I wrote that story that there's little phases. Okay, well, I apparently don't know who God is completely, but I have an idea, and much more of an idea than I did when I started. And then I have much more of an idea of who I am. And now I'm really looking to the bigger picture of who are we, and what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be together in community? What does it mean to love one another and care about one another, and to focus more externally? And I didn't realize that until I wrote it, that it's him, me, us, and that's, I didn't see that until I wrote it. So that's a new idea for me, new thought.
So who are you?
I am a woman who is not someone who is the life of the party. I'm someone who enjoys life and enjoys talking to people. I'm still quite nervous around people, and I will always be, because that's just who I am. But I've been able to realize that I can be myself, and people might like that, people might not like that. And I still struggle a little bit with not looking at, I do something and I think, oh, well, that was not a good idea. And changing those negative ways of thinking into more positive thoughts. And that's always something I think I'll always work on. But I've come to terms with the idea that that God has given me these different ways of living, different ways of thinking, different talents and different ideas, and I can take those and work with those and give that to other people, and people give that to me. So it's I'm more self-assured in what I can do and who I can be, and being secure in knowing that that I have a good life. It may not be the way I wanted it or expected it, but I think it's turned out beautifully. And I don't think I realized that until I started looking at me and realizing that I'm me for a reason, and that I'm much more happy with who I am.
What were your expectations when you knew that you would hand out the book to Jenny personally?
Well, Jesse and Anya suggested that I do it, and I was, of course, a little bit nervous because I wanted to. Because so many people who have written stories, they want so much to let her know how much that she has affected their life, and I felt like I wanted to be able to express that, to present that to her, and to let them be the ones to have the focus on them, and that this was not something that just one person did. This was everybody who wrote something in this book did it. It was something that everybody was excited about, everyone was enthusiastic about. They spent a lot of time working on it, and they worked hard, and they had all these different barriers and obligations that they worked through, language barriers, work, school, family, health, and they wanted to say something. They wanted to all tell her something, and to present that is to say, this is basically they're handing over their heart, in a way, their stories to her. And I wanted her to realize just how much that meant to others. And of course I think she knew that, and I think I expected her to know that, and because they're very much, I'm sure she has seen that and heard that through other people, fans telling her and fans writing to her, so she has an idea of all the influence. But I think this was a little bit more of a formal way to do it. She knows it, but the fans themselves, they don't really get the chance to sit down and talk about their story long form like that, and they don't get to do it so that other fans can read the stories too, because other fans are buying this and reading the stories and thinking about the lives of other people, and how they've experienced the art and the music in a different way. So I think I've completely forgotten. I just went off into a tangent. But I think that it turned out really well. The presentation was a little short, but I think other fans wanted to see the presentation and to have a copy of the presentation, because it meant writing their story in the book meant so much. So knowing that she was given a copy and the copy was handed over and that she would read it also meant a lot to them, so they can express their story in that way.
So, what was the feedback we got on the book? Not Jenny's feedback, but the feedback of the fans, of the other fans that didn't take part in the writing process. Was that expected? The feedback you got?
It was, people have been very positive about it. They've read the stories, and a lot of people have said, this is a good idea, this is something that we've enjoyed, something that we have never thought about in a way, because a lot of fans will tell their stories to Jenny, but we don't get to hear them each other. We don't really tell each other. When we go to the meet and greets, they talk to her and tell her, but this was a way for other fans to hear everybody else's story that they may have already told Jenny, that we don't get to hear. And I think a lot of fans were happy about a new project, a different project, a way to have that experience as a fan and to share that experience together with each other. And a lot of people who haven't been able to take part in the book but wanted to have expressed the desire to take part in another one. So we're actually thinking about doing another book with a different theme, and being able to bring in all the people who were not able to write a story for whatever reason but now want to. So it's been a positive feedback and giving us some creative ideas for bringing in a second book with a different idea and a different focus.
And now you just need to say something about that the revenue goes to the World Project, something like that.
You're editing this, aren't you? So what we were talking about when we were talking about putting this project together and getting the book together is we thought about how can we make this even bigger than just fans sharing their stories with other fans. And we thought that it would be an excellent way to be able to raise money for the Voy Project, which is an organization in Sweden that helps people in Voy, Kenya, kids who have lost their parents, help them get the necessities they need. And so we thought that the Jenny Source has raised a lot of money for them over the years and really enjoyed doing that through different ways. And since they've had that relationship many years, we thought this would be an excellent way to extend that and an excellent way to help even more, not just fans enjoying the stories, but also enjoying the stories and being able to help other people along the way. So it's really about helping people every single step, helping the people who are writing, helping the people who are reading, and helping the people who, the kiddos who may not have the things that they need to help them get some of the things that they might need to help them have more, a life that's a little bit more comfortable and a little bit better.